Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week in the great state of Utah, in the great community of Silicon Slopes. Real quick, over the weekend, both parties, the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, held conventions. You know that?
I did.
Our buddy Rob Axon actually is the chair of the Republican Party. He'll be in here this week, I believe.
It'll be tomorrow. And I'm waiting till then to read up all about it. I might as well hear straight from the horse's mouth.
We have good old Robert Axon, the chair of the Republican Party, coming in tomorrow to tell us about this. Real quick, though, Riverton Mayor Trent Staggs, you know him?
Just heard of him.
He was far and away the convention favorite to replace Mitt Romney. He got 69.7% of the vote after delivering a series of fiery speeches to persuade state GOP delegates. That's what the Deseret News said, fiery speeches. He was also, right before the convention started, endorsed by the one and only Donald Trump.
Oh. He found enough time to make an endorsement.
Trump himself, from Truth Social in an all-caps post, endorsed Trent Staggs.
That's cool.
What do you think of that?
Imagine how much he had to try and communicate with the Donald during that week where he was stuck in a courtroom. His team's probably just like, I don't know, we'll ask him when he has a break. I don't know, we'll ask him when he has a break.
John Curtis finished in second with 30.3% of the vote. The odd thing, or maybe not so odd in today's day and age, is that's not it.
No.
It's not Trent Staggs just won. There is now a primary, which actually decides who becomes the nominee for the Republican Party and, of course, becomes the next senator from Utah. Curtis will be on that ballot. Former State House Speaker Brad Wilson and Moxie Pest Control Jason Walton will go up against Staggs. This will happen June 25th. According to all the polls, John Curtis is actually the favorite to win this.
Yeah.
We'll see what Donald Trump's endorsement means in the state of Utah. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah. It's probably
obviously
a net positive.
Useful at the convention because he dominated there.
Yeah.
He was also endorsed by Mike Lee, I believe, which is a thing. And then the 3rd Congressional District for Congress, Senator Mike Kennedy, who beat Mitt Romney at the convention 6 years ago, was the choice. And then he's unlikely to be the one who wins again. Like somebody else is leading that by a bit. Frugal Dougal ran. Anyways, so but the guy who Case Lawrence, I believe, who is Circus Tricks, CEO.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he is leading in the polls. Kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah. So luckily, we have an expert that knows all about this coming in tomorrow to explain. You just won, and now you got to do it again.
Yeah, you got to do it again
in the middle of the summer, and then you got to do it again.
And then Mike Lee endorsed Colby Jenkins over the sitting Representative Celeste Malloy. Colby Jenkins won. Anyways, and then there was all this talk of like disgraceful behavior. It's not really clear. I read a whole article about it, and it's not entirely clear what was so disgraceful, but I'm sure there's something was. And then Phil Lyman, the last thing, Phil Lyman beat Spencer Cox by a lot. And Spencer Cox got booed at the convention quite heavily.
Yeah. What would be the...
And will obviously win by 50 points in the primary.
Like
Isn't that odd?
Yeah. The metaphor equivalent, right? Like, because I think Angola beat the Dream Team in a scrimmage, like the original Dream Team. And I think they lost to a college team once, right? But then when the actual game started, they beat them by 80 going away.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, as far as I know, Spencer Cox is maybe the most popular governor of all time.
Yeah.
In Utah.
So
and he lost pretty badly to this Phil Lyman character at the convention and got booed and all that type of stuff, and is very likely to win literally by like 50 points in the primary.
Yeah. I think it'll be like a Reagan-Mondale type of thing.
That's so strange.
A near sweep.
So what is the point of this convention? We got to ask our buddy.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I was involved in when I ran for State House. I was 26. And I was standing next to somebody named Jason Chaffetz, just underneath the bleachers. And I had to give like speeches to, and these folks were unimpressed. And I'm like, who the hell are you? Because they were like, who the hell are you? I'm like, what are we doing here? I still don't understand it. But I was standing next to this guy, and they read out that he had won that. And he was ecstatic and happy, and he immediately converged with his team. And I'm like, what does any of this mean? And I left way early. Probably wasn't supposed to.
Wait, you lost to Jason Chaffetz?
No. I just happened to be standing next to him.
Oh.
In baffled confusion of what just took place. But it was a big deal for him. So sometimes I think it's important, but usually it's not. I think it's like a party of zealots. And it only means something to the people that are in the Mountain America Convention Center or wherever they had it this year.
I think it was at the Salt Palace this
Salt
year.
Palace.
But yeah, point taken.
Yeah. But anyways, we're going to get a good explanation tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who's here with us today, Garrett?
We have Johnathan Hitzhusen.
Hitzhusen.
Hitzhusen. Almost got it.
Hitzhusen. It's easy to say Hitzhusen.
Yeah, after you hear it. Founder of Backyard Office Utah. And I'm excited to talk to Johnathan because for about 10 months, Clint and I and the Silicon Slopes team, all we did was talk COVID, both on the health and economic side. And all it was Zoom calls and barking dogs and yelling kids and everyone bemoaning like, oh man, I wish I could go back to the office, or I wish I had an office. Some were lucky enough to have it, but there was a lot of people out in their backyard with the birds chirping, and then over time it was, I got somebody to build a shed, or I got somebody to build, they brought in a moving container, a shipping container. So anyways, give us the story of Backyard Office. Where did the idea come from? The business model, what y'all do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had started Backyard Office Utah about 2 years ago, and it was after a year or so of working from home. I was working from home even before COVID at a tech company that I was doing tech sales for. And during COVID, things continued to escalate, and realized that the solution of working out of the corner of the master bedroom wasn't going to work very well long term. So I had 4 kids at the time. We rented out our basement, so just had the 3 bedrooms upstairs, decent sized backyard with one decent spot for a backyard office, and got to a point where working from the bedroom wasn't sustainable, and had some paternity from our 4th kid that had been born a couple months before that was sitting in the bank, and decided to cash it out, take a couple months off, and spent the first 2.5 weeks of that building a backyard office.
Yeah. And there's various forms of this, right? Like all the way from like a blanket fort when you're just like pressed against it and up for hard luck, to a really nice, cool backyard office that has insulation and HVAC and electrical, right?
Absolutely.
Because I spent a lot of time in my shed trying to get on these Zoom calls and everything, and I was using some solar power, some candles. It is not what y'all build, but it does make a big difference, and it is a nice place where you can actually like transition from house to work, even though it might only be 20 yards away.
Absolutely. Yeah, what we found is that a lot of people enjoyed working from home, minus the lack of separation and the lack of sunlight. I mean, I would go a week sometimes. That's probably a little bit dramatic, but a couple of days where I wouldn't even go outside. With a wife that stayed home with our 4 kids, she'd do the grocery shopping. I'd get off work at 6 o'clock, wouldn't even need to walk outside. And so just having a backyard office where you have that work-life separation, you can leave your laptop in there at 5 o'clock, and then forcing you to get up, walk around outside, getting to see the kids when they're playing outside, and not being siloed in a basement somewhere meant a lot. It doesn't give you all the benefits of working from an office, right? You don't have the social aspect of getting to hang out with coworkers, but a lot of the benefits from work from home you can get that way without necessarily all the downsides by having a backyard office.
So your site says you can build it in 30 days.
We actually build in about 3 weeks. So
it's incredible. How do you do that?
Well, it might be a little deceptive. It's not meant to be, but I've had some confusion on there. We're booked out 4.5 months right now. So, but from the time we start framing to the time we finish is 3 weeks. So I have a 3-man crew. We build them on site. We get a lumber package delivered. And the first week we frame it, do the shingles. Second week, electrical, insulation, drywall. Third week, HVAC, floors, paint, and we hand them the keys. So aside from picking your windows, your layout, your colors, your floors, and letting us know if you have any specifications on where outlets go, there's not a whole lot that the homeowner has to do. We handle the permits if needed, the concrete, HVAC, electrical hookup to house, and build them in 3 weeks. So it's pretty painless for the
No,
homeowners.
that's cool.
Yeah. And in 2024, when a banana costs $800 and a new house is $4.8 million
Yeah.
and it's 1 bedroom, the part that I like about y'all is talk about the pricing.
Yeah, we range from $35,000 to $45,000. So our largest size, $45,000, and again, that's a turnkey price. There's no surprises. It can go up a little bit beyond that if you have customizations or different things. If you want the wood paneled ceiling or things like that, but most of our builds are just standard $45,000 price tags. Some of them are if people don't want the full 10 by 20 space, we can do down to $35,000 for like an 8 by 10 or something a little smaller for unique yard situations. But we try to keep costs low. Margins aren't amazing, but we do enough to get by, and it's been really good. There's competitors out there that'll charge $58,000, $60,000 for a 10 by 12 and drop it in your yard. Doesn't include a lot of the foundation prep work and things like that. And then there's other competitors that will send you a shed kit that has all the modern style features. So it doesn't look like a tough shed, but then you're forced to buy that for $28,000 and then hire someone to do your concrete, hire someone to do your electrical, insulation, shingles, paint. And by the time you're done with it, you might as well have just chosen us. It would have been cheaper and way less headache.
Yeah. And there's probably a fair amount of those that are half finished for 6 months,
Sure.
2 years.
Absolutely.
And they're like, oh, that's more expensive than I thought. We'll get to it eventually, and then they never do.
Yeah.
You mentioned it's a bit of a wait now, not too bad, but I like that you guys are scrappy, 3-man crew, keeping costs low. When you first launched this, obviously there was the demand, but what were people's perceptions and reactions? You might go to, well, can I build it? What about code and, municipality, this and that? And they're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. So we handle all that for people. The setbacks are the main thing that we have to worry about. If we keep it under 200 square feet, it in most cities will qualify as a shed. And so a lot of the zoning and other issues that you'd have if you were doing an addition to your house or a fully separate, larger ADU, you don't run into with our buildings. So they're a lot easier to get in. As far as reactions that people have, we'll hop on the phone and some people are expecting an $8,000 tough shed price for what we build. And then the vast majority of people are pretty stoked when they hear the price because they've been looking at how do I build onto my house, and they get $150,000, $250,000 price tag from a contractor. And then they hear $45,000 is going to solve their problem, and they're pretty stoked.
Yeah. Because in Utah, maybe in April or May, you don't need insulation.
Yeah.
Or maybe, September, October, but you do in the summer and you do in the winter. That's a big differentiator between a tough shed and what y'all build, right?
Absolutely. And we handle all that. And you could obviously buy a tough shed, pay someone to insulate it, pay someone to do drywall. The buildings we build are tougher than tough sheds, and they look different. Aesthetically, they'll match your house a lot better. There's a modern look with windows and things that are just a lot harder to get from just a shed kit that you could buy online or by going to one of these other shed outfitters.
Yeah. Another common complaint during the dark days was spouses saying, yeah, they just think I'm here and available, not working. And you're walking around with your headset on, and you are there physically.
Yeah.
But you still got to bring home the bacon. And it was a source of contention for a lot of folks, right?
Yeah. I mean, for my wife and I personally, it was a source of contention. We had 4 kids at the time, 3 bedrooms upstairs. I was in the master bedroom, and I'd hear the kids screaming, and not proud to say that there were more than one time that I would crack the door open, yell at my wife to make the kids shut up before an important call, and then go back in there. And it wasn't healthy. Not having that work-life separation. And then, of course, kid needs a diaper changed and you're walking out to use the restroom, and who feels obligated to help out with whatever's going on, or have that conversation with the kid who's throwing a tantrum or whatnot. So
yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that time period. Heard a lot about ADUs, right? Like sometimes they even show up like on the front page of the Wall Street Journal of fads or like solutions to housing crisis, and with interest rates kind of being stubborn and millions of people locked into good rates, they don't have an incentive to move, right?
Yeah.
Is this a direction you guys might be going?
Absolutely. Yeah. For the backyard offices, the interest rates have been in large part helpful because people don't want to move. And so they've got a house that they otherwise love. They love their church. They love their neighborhood. They want their kids to grow up in a place. They don't want to constantly be moving, but it just doesn't have that extra bedroom. And having the backyard office solves that problem at a much cheaper cost than giving up the interest rate and paying 6% in seller fees. But the same is true for ADUs. We get a lot of people that are asking about plumbing, and it does turn into a different animal when you're adding plumbing in and costs go up and whatnot. But with the housing crisis going on in Utah right now, there's a lot of cities that are becoming more open to ADUs. We just built a 2,600 square foot ADU up in West Haven. 1,300 square feet on the first floor was a shop, and then the second floor was a 3-bed, 2-bath ADU. And so things like that where you can get creative. You can have a garage on the first floor and then an ADU on the top, or even just a little 1-bedroom studio type thing, bring in some rental income. But a lot of families are they're kind of at a crossroads of, do we all move somewhere else? If we want to stick together within an hour, grandma, grandpa, kids, grandkids, do we go somewhere cheaper? How do we keep the family together? And you're seeing a lot less options for younger folks that are under $500,000. And so the ADU allows people to, maybe grandma or grandpa lives in Southern California and has a house that's fully paid off and is willing to sell that, figure out some sort of inheritance, contract with a kid, and use that money to build an ADU in Utah on their kid's property and get to help raise the grandkids and not just end up in an old folks home and have that multi-generational living that used to be so much more common.
Yeah. Which would be good, in a lot of ways, because I also hear friends being like, man, I'd love my kids to live in the neighborhood that I grew up in or in the county that I grew up in. But that's not going to happen unless, win the lottery. And then obviously with the baby boomers for the next 15, 20 years, they're not going to need these big houses that they, raise their families in. This could be a perfect solution for millions of Americans, right?
Absolutely. On that point, a lot of cities the reason they're hesitant about allowing ADUs is impact on utilities, existing infrastructure. A lot of the statistics I've seen actually show that most of these neighborhoods were built for much larger capacities, households. And so now when you have those big houses that used to have 6 kids and people running through all the time and 4 cars in the driveway for all the teenagers, now it's just grandma and grandpa. And so if they were to build an ADU, it actually wouldn't cause the utilities and existing infrastructure to go over capacity. So a lot of cities are realizing this, and some of the fears that they had initially about how this would affect infrastructure are dying away, and they're starting to see it more as an option. The question then becomes, do we allow it for just long-term rentals, or do we allow it for Airbnbs too, and all the things that come with Airbnb renters? So that seems to be where a lot of cities are trying to wrestle with, but a lot more are being open at least to the long-term rental option.
Someone who doesn't really have to deal with the type of thing we're talking about is a man named Matthew Prince. He is Cloudflare's co-founder and CEO, and he's trying to build an enormous house in Park City. And some say he's the richest person in all of Utah.
I've heard that.
Might be possible, actually.
Yeah, you never know.
And he is suing his neighbors who are opposing his build because of their dogs. And this is a huge write-up feature story in the Wall Street Journal. And it's kind of crazy. Yeah. So these millionaires it's like millionaires versus billionaires, right?
Yeah, those are the millionaires there.
And Prince says, I get that we're rich assholes, but at some level, I'm also a father and I have to protect my daughter. Speaking of why he sued his neighbors over the dogs. Everything about this is so funny. And the suit alleges that his neighbors are elderly and frail and unable to control the large dogs. And then it says the Hermans, who are the neighbors, walk their dogs several miles daily up and down the mountain.
Pretty good for frail. So I heard about this story like at a event a couple of weeks ago, straight from some horse's mouth. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that sounds typical. I love that he at least called himself what everyone else thinks, right? I know we're just rich assholes, but at some point I do need to be like a normal human. So then when I saw it on the front page of the Wall Street Journal yesterday, I thought it was like a fever dream because it's a pretty big bar to get on there. And then it's a pretty long story.
It's a very long story. They met, they actually shared some wine prior to all this, and then the neighbors opposed. And then there was some event that happened recently at the Egyptian Theater up there, and both families were in there, and the princess saw the dogs on their way out and
blew him a kiss.
Blew him a kiss.
And there's a text message of them because they did go meet initially, like they took over a bottle of wine, like good neighbors, and they're like, hey, we're going to build a mega mansion and there's retaining walls and all of this. And then they replied, sorry, the dogs barked at you or something like that. And I don't know how many lawsuits are flying back and forth. Again, the lawyers are sitting pretty in Park City. And they've got like the community's picking sides now, and they're got little posters with the dogs.
Yeah, they're selling cool stickers for the dogs called Free Sasha and Mocha. And people are putting these, and somebody put it on the Prince's, like the light pole outside their house, which is cool. I don't even know if I should share this, but I will. So my only interaction with Matthew Prince, I've had a few, but the only kind of interesting one was he was supposed to speak at one of the early summits, and it was day of, and I think he was about an hour out from having to take the stage. And he calls me and he asks me where to park. And I tell him, I'm like, all right, here's like where speakers can park and all that type of stuff. And he's like, no, I want to park right in front of the venue. And then I want to leave right when I'm done. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But this is the Salt Palace. There's no right in front of the venue. Like, here are the places that you can do this. And like, we can even have somebody take like, what do you want to do? Right. And then he canceled an hour before and he didn't show up and he didn't speak.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? This isn't even worth it. I was like, all right, cool.
I remember that.
See ya.
A little scrambling.
Yeah.
It was worth it for us. And then we had to deal with it. I remember that. Yeah.
So I'm not surprised he's suing his neighbors over their dogs.
Yeah.
And causing a kerfuffle in Park City. Let's just say that.
I mean, the funny thing is you've got to win, lose, or draw. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose. The dogs are probably sitting back laughing like, oh, look what these humans are doing now. But at some point, you're going to have to like see these people at the Egyptian and all the fancy little cocktail receptions they always go to. Like, it's way ancestral up there. You're going to run into everyone constantly.
I read the story. First of all, it's hilarious. Everybody should read the story. It's so funny. It's like the most pointless thing ever. And it's like 5,000 words.
Yeah.
About it. So well worth a read just for that reason alone. But I read it and I was like, man, I hate Park City.
It's just like a cutthroat, zero-sum game constantly. Your whole life is just like, well, if we do this, what's going to be the result? Probably
Park City,
4
one of the
lawsuits.
most beautiful places on earth, and it's being ruined.
Oh my gosh. So much money, so much power. Everyone's just lawyered up constantly.
Can you imagine suing your neighbors? I'd have to go to my neighbor. Hey, I sued you.
Like, well, yeah.
Did you get that?
We sued you the instant you sued us. We have a Google alert for when it happens.
You're in a different world when you can just like sue your neighbors back and forth. That's so weird.
No good.
Super weird. Just walk over and talk to them.
It's got to be exhausting.
How can you not just talk to them?
I have no idea.
Crazy.
You know, like it's Hatfields and McCoys all over Park City. You can't even say something nice about something. Yeah, that Jenny and Jim Johnson, they sure are nice. What are you talking about? I've sued them 4 times. They planted flowers where they shouldn't. Don't you know this? I'm like, oh, okay. I did not know that.
You have too much time on your hands if you're doing all this.
You need like this advanced algorithm to figure out who likes each other and who doesn't. Like, okay.
Stay away from Park City. I think that's the lesson we've learned. As beautiful it is, as it is, but my word.
Oh, gosh.
Can you imagine showing up and someone just sues you for walking around? You're not supposed to walk there. Well, damn it.
All the stereotypes sadly hold true up there. It's a bummer. But, you know, case in point, right, with what y'all are doing, Johnathan, right, like there are solutions that don't involve draconian lawsuits back and forth. And ultimately what, you know, these backyard offices or possibly in the future, these ADUs, it's a small footprint, minimal impact. It doesn't really phase, you know, the power grid or anything like that. It seems like a win-win for the folks, the communities, and y'all, right? Like you guys are going to build a nice business.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to do good work. We have a lot of people that talk to us about how it's, you know, not to be dramatic, but change their lives. They go from bickering with their spouse all day long and not able to focus to suddenly they have a way to get productivity and some stability back in their family. So it's been real cool to see the reactions
Congrats
to
on
it.
what you've built, man. Seriously, it's so cool. I love that it's working out as well. I love that you have such a long wait time. Matthew Prince, it's freaking 45K.
Yeah.
Just talk to Backyard. Wait, what is it called?
Backyard
Utah.
Office.
Backyard Office, Utah. Spend 45K. You have it.
In your couch cushions.
Like, just go do that rather than sue your neighbors. Although, thank you for the incredible story.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's the title of the story is "The Billionaire Dogfight Rocking Park City, Utah." Everybody check it out. How do people get in touch with you, learn more about you, and get one of these things in their backyard?
BackyardOfficeUtah.com, or just Google Backyard Office.
Are you any plans to expand outside of Utah?
Not at the moment.
Just rolling here. There's
Enjoying
probably plenty of business here, yeah.
Utah and Salt Lake County. There's a lot of business. So we don't gone a couple times outside of Salt Lake and Utah counties, but most of it's here where the tech is, where the ROI is for people and their productivity.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, congrats again. Everybody check it out. Backyard Office, Utah. We have the chair of the Utah Republican Party here tomorrow, and we will get all the details and scoops of what happened over the weekend at the convention.
Polish your pistols, Robert Axon. We're going to have some questions.
I'm going to shoot him with a pistol. Is that what you meant?
No. Well,
Oh.
fine. Guess there will be a duel. See, this will be how you settle things in Provo.
I thought we were saying we were going to shoot him.
He just needs to come prepared.
You better come prepared, Robert. We got some big questions. All right. See everybody tomorrow.
Thanks, Johnathan.
Thank you, sir.